Hi YouTube, ACDodd here again, and welcome to another episode of On the Road Tuning with me, ACDodd. So, this time we're all over the place. We've got 3 cars for you, so let's get stuck in. Okay, so today gets me down to Bognor Regis for this car, which is a nice little road racer, and it's actually a work in progress. So it's all working, but as you can see, the dash is not quite in, but it's a lovely car. As the owner politely informs me, a 20-footer. But in terms of what we got under the bonnet, we've got the usual powerhouse of an A+ 998. This one has been adorned with a few extras. It's obviously got a different coil on it. It's got looks like a power spark ignition, and it's obviously got a HS4 carb, which the owner's rebuilt with a HI38 dashpot. So let's go and talk to the owner and see why he's called us down. Okay, so this is Colin. He's the owner of this lovely little road racer. So why have you called us down today, Colin?
Well, obviously a bit of a tinkerer, but my knowledge can only take me so far, and sometimes you just have to get an expert in to fix something.
Excellent. Okay, so what are your problems you're having with it?
When I first got it, it had a really bad flat spot, and now that's there still. I just think it needs some attention.
Okay, I can see you've already done some work to it because it's a lot of new bits under the bonnet.
Yeah.
You've rebuilt the carb,
yeah,
and it seems to run happily on idle. So
yeah.
Let's dig in and see what we can find.
Cool.
Okay, so getting into this one, first thing we find is it's got a 3 ohm coil on it. So that's not the best of starts considering it's running a variable dwell dizzy. So we've got to look at changing the coil. It's a shame really because it's a new one, but that's again, people don't understand the system, so they fit the wrong parts, believing they're making it better, and in actual fact they're making it worse. So as we go through, I'm not changing that just yet because clearly this is a new dizzy. Now, if that's got the wrong advance curve in it, there's no point in me putting a dizzy on to match this, coil on to match this dizzy, because I might have to change the dizzy, and my replacement ones have all got a high power module. So this hasn't got a high power module, so that means I would have to fit a 1.4 ohm coil here. But because I don't know if this is usable or not, I'm not going to change this until I can verify the timing curve. Once I've verified the timing curve, if this is suitable, then I'll go ahead and put a 1.4 ohm coil on it. If it's not suitable, we'll have to change that for a recurve dizzy, and the recurve ones I carry are all the high power ones, so therefore we'll put a 0.8 ohm coil on to match the high power dizzy, and then we can fire bigger spark plug gaps. Now, moving on to the plugs and leads, the leads on this are pretty good condition. They're about 4 to 5k resistant, so not ideal, but they're exactly the same as standard. So for now, because they're brand new, I'm going to leave them as they are. But what I'm not going to do is leave the plugs, because if you can see there, we have a look at that one. We've got BP6 ESs, so we're going to change those for a set of BP5s. They are non-resistor, which is good. So let's whip those out and see what that tells us. Okay, so looking at the spark plugs, this is a classic example of 4 plugs that are running a bit rich. Bearing in mind it's just on a cold start, so they are not going to be perfectly clean. But what we have got is the wrong heat range, and it's showing up in all dark plugs. But equally, if you look at them carefully, they're all slightly different. Now that normally indicates a coil power issue, an ignition power issue. So we've already looked at the coil, and we found it's a 3 ohm coil, and it's running variable dwell. So typically this engine's just been idling, and yeah, we're burning differently on every plug, and that's because the coil hasn't necessarily got the right power to fire properly. And the other thing is, typically the spark plug gaps are all way too big, so we need 25 thou on this setup. So what we're going to do now is put a new set of plugs in. I am going to gap them at 25 thou, and then we'll check the timing. If we need to change the advance curve for a different dizzy, then the plugs will have to be regapped back up to the 35 thou. But we'll put a new set of plugs in and we'll go from there. So got the engine running again after putting new plugs in, and it runs okay. I checked the timing. Timing curve's not perfect, but it's workable. So in this case, I'm not going to change the dizzy. We'll just put a 1.4 ohm coil on it, make the best use of what's already there. And the timing was 10 degrees retarded. So this was one of the main reasons why this engine was performing poorly. So we'll get that coil changed, and then we'll turn our attention to the carburetor and see how that's fueling. Okay, so we've got the engine running. It runs really well, but we've got a needle issue. So what we've done is clearly I've changed to a 1.4 ohm coil. So that's all working very well. But what I have got is far too much fuel. Now this is very common, and people put the treble A needle in on a stage 1 kit, and trust me, 9 times out of 10 this is way too rich. And in this particular case, I've got 0.79, 0.8, 0.83 all the way across the rev range. And the only point where the fueling starts to lean out is at 5,000 revs. And even then, it's still 0.86, so it's too much at part throttle. So use this, clip here as evidence that these AAA needles are usually way too rich in a stage 1 Mini. So what we're going to do is we're going to change that to an AAF, see what the fueling's like. If it's still too rich, we'll go down to an AAE. So I'll just add a little bit to the video here. Yeah, very interesting. People are still fitting AAA needles to stage 1 kits. And as it said there exactly, 9 times out of 10, that's way too rich. In fact, that's bore wash rich. So if you're going to just grab a needle that somebody suggests to hopefully it will go better, or it comes in, or you get a treble A needle in the stage 1 kit, no, don't do that. Basically, you need to verify the fueling with any parts that are supplied. Okay, so what you really should be doing if you want this to work properly is either fit yourself a wideband gauge into the vehicle so you can actually verify what's going on, or book a rolling road session at a competent rolling road that somebody knows what they're doing that can actually get the fueling right. Because all that's going to happen here is if you put those needles in, you're just going to wash your rings out. So in this case, the owner knew that there was an issue, so and he couldn't get it running right. So he's called me in to do just that, which is to get it fixed. So let's move on. So we're over on the needle lathe now, and in this particular case I needed to modify the needle. So what we've done is we started off with the treble A, it was way too rich. I went to the AAF, which was almost perfect but still rich at 2,000 revs. So I've now gone down to the AAE needle, which is perfect at 2,000 revs, but too lean at 3,000 and 4,000. So we're now adjusting the needle to get the fueling right at 3,000 and 4,000. And then we've got something that fuels correctly right the way across the rev range. So let's get it back in and see what we got. So I'll just interject here again. A lot of people seem to think I know which needles need to be fitted to make what. That's not the case. In this particular case, I had to try a needle and it was still too rich. So I had to try yet a leaner needle. Yes, I have a selection of needles with me, but I don't know what's needed until I measure it. And that's the key. What people need to understand is it's measurement that leads the way to success here, not knowing, which particular needle means what. You've got to put a leaner needle in, and then you have to measure it to verify exactly what's happened. And the reason for that is because there's so many factors with the wear on the carburetor, the engine, etc., the condition, all the rest of it, and that all factors in, which is one of the reasons why you can't just go, it's that needle for this car. With that said, let's move on. So we're just about there. Got this engine dialed in. So in the end, we had to modify the AAE needle between 3,000 and 4,000 revs. Got that spot on. And then we needed to enrichen the mixture under acceleration because it was going a bit lean. So we had 2050 in the dashpot, but in actual fact, I changed for some straight 50 weight oil, and that. has produced an engine that's fueling really well. So what we'll do now is we'll let the owner go in it and see what he thinks. So the owner's just been for a test drive. No, it's not a 5-cylinder engine. I've actually got the plug on the right is the plug after it's been for a test drive. So you can see the difference. The 4 on the left are how it was when I arrived, and that's spark plug out of cylinder number 2, which effectively is this plug here. You can see the difference that a proper tune-up makes. Okay, so been out for a test drive. You already see the smile, which is fantastic. So what's it like now?
Yeah, better. I mean, without a doubt, especially in the cruise, just a lot smoother, but acceleration and lifting off as well and getting into the next gear change were better than it was before.
Wonderful. So more power?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Wonderful. All right. And in which case, would you recommend this service to anyone else?
Absolutely, I would. Yeah, get it done.
All right. Thank you very much. So, down in Southampton, and we have a classic kit car, GTM. This is a lovely old one. Let's have a look under the back, see what we're working with. 1275 based engine. I'm told it's got a ported head, it's got a single HI 44 carb on it, and we've got some sort of electronic ignition. So let's go and talk to the owner and see why he's called us down. Okay, so this is Paul. Paul's called us down today. So why have you called us down to your car, Paul?
I've had the GTM for about 25 years, not used it for about 10-15 years, and it's gradually fallen into a poor state of disrepair. I just want someone to see why the engine's not running properly. I've tried a few basic things. I've followed Adrian's YouTube channel, and I'm just not getting where I want to be. So
okay, so just for the viewers, can you just let them know what you mean by not running properly?
It's just flat. I've played around with the timing, got the timing to what I think's right. I think the base mixture's about right, but it's just got no power. And when you put your foot down, I've now got an AFR gauge on it, and it now just goes right through to 17-18 to 1 on the AFR gauge.
Oh, right,
so it's
yes.
clearly running lean.
It's just leaning
and I don't know
out.
how to correct it any further than that. So
okay,
call a
all right.
specialist in.
I'm glad you got us down then. Let's see if we can rectify that and get that fueling where it needs to be, and hopefully get this engine to perform. So into this one, I'm just taking the plugs out and gapping them because they're only a month old. The colour's pretty good. I'll just show you that. So there we go. Colour's not too bad. So the engine's running okay on this one. It's just I think it's just lean on the fueling. So what I'm going to do is just go through, continue the normal checks. I've already checked the coil. It's a 2.5 ohm high power standard 12 volt system. So the problem is on the Dizzy it's giving a variable dwell, so in reality you really could do with a 1.5 ohm coil. I just don't have one because I've sold it on the previous tune this morning, so we're going to solder on like it is. It's running okay, but that's something that the owner can change later on. Anyway, we'll go through, finish off with the plugs. As you can see, it's already got power spark leads on it, so we're all good there. Once I get these plugs back in, I'll get the engine run up and check the timing, and then we'll move on to the carburation. Okay, so what we're going to do with this one, it's got a reasonable cam in it. So I've just checked the spring in the carburetor, and we have a red spring, and it's quite a weak one as well. So it's been compressed because it's old. So we're going to change that for a yellow. Needle wise, it's running a standard BDL, and when I've throttled it, it's just lean right the way across the rev range. So you know, sort of lambda 1.1, 1.2, something like, well, 1.15 to 1.2. So what we're going to do is we're going to up that fueling considerably, and then we'll see what it's like and do any adjustments that we need. So this little GTM, it's a very interesting engine. A little bit of history on the engine. Apparently it was built by a worker who used to work at Longman's. Anyway, the engine itself was in very, very good condition. So there was a lot of exhaust pressure coming out the pipe, which means the engine was sealed well, even though it was old. Because it had been running very lean, the thing had had never been bore washed, so it had very good ring seal. And obviously the valves are in good condition as well, because it had never performed. So I took the opportunity to change the spring as in there, and then I embarked on a series of test runs to see what was going on. But as we'll see, yeah, very interesting. It took some massively extensive needle modifications to make this engine work, right until the point where the needle that we ended up with was nothing like anything that SU make. So this is a classic example of it ain't ever going to run right with any needle that's ever been made anywhere before, because the needle profile needed was completely miles out of whack for anything that was off the shelf. So yeah, anyway, with that being said, let's crack on. So what we've been doing is I've been sending the owner out on it, because this has got a wideband gauge installed. So we've been doing a few test runs to actually determine what needles to start with. So over to the needle lathe. So what we've been doing is we've done a few runs. We started off with a BDR needle, and with the BDR needle we was a touch lean. So in order to work out exactly where I needed to be, I changed it for a BCF needle, which was conversely a touch rich. So what we're going to do is we're going to make something somewhere in between, and also the part throttle fueling is basically a little bit lean on the BDR needle, so it's a good base to start. But it also means this engine is demanding a lot of fuel, so it's a healthy girl. So let's get that dialed in, and we'll send the owner out in it again. Because he's got the wideband installed, he's able to give me live readings, so we can get this one spot on. Okay, so we got this one dialed in. In the end, it didn't need a massive amount. The only thing wrong with it was the carburetor was way out of tune, so it's way too lean. So that sounds absolutely awesome. So we'll let the owner go in it and see what he thinks. Okay, so Paul's been out in his car. You could already see the slight smirk of a smile there. So what's it like now, Paul?
It's a totally different car. It's like night and day. It's gone from being a car that's undrivable to something I'm very pleased with. It's very quick.
Okay, so just for the viewers there, what's the difference?
It's mainly it's drivable. It's drivable. The rev, it goes through its full rev range now, where it didn't before. It's not misfiring. It starts straight away. So now it's just a chance to take it out and use it properly.
Excellent. What's it like when you put your foot hard down?
Very good. Very impressive.
Excellent. All right.
For what it is, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks very much for getting me down to look at this fantastic car.
Thank you.
Always like looking at the old GTMs and stuff like that, and the old kit cars. And all I wish you do is get out and enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so beautiful Morris Minor. Now this one, as you can see, is a little bit buoyed up on the outside and a little bit buoyed up on the inside with all those gauges. Look at that, wonderful. So let's have a look under the bonnet. So under the bonnet beats the heart of an A series, and this one has had some modifications and it's freshly rebuilt. So it's got an HI38 carb, and my job today is to set it up for running in. So let's go and speak to the owner. So this is Paul. Paul's the owner of this lovely Morris Minor.
Hello.
So what have you called us down today, Paul?
I've called Adrian down today to just tune my engine, because I fully rebuilt the engine just a little while ago and I didn't want to damage it, so I thought I'd get Adrian down to tune it so I could drive it.
Excellent. So yeah, it's got no miles on it. I don't think you've even driven it around the block yet. No. So a virgin engine. So we're going to be nice and gentle with it, but we're going to set it up for running in and get that fueling under control.
Yeah.
And then you can enjoy your running in oil and get it all nice and running in.
Yeah. Thank you.
Wonderful. So as we dive into this one, we can quickly see that we've got a Viper 0.8 ohm coil. The only problem with that is the distributor, I think, isn't rated for it. So the module inside there, I don't believe it's rated for it, but I'm not going to suggest I change anything because what we need to do is to work out if the advance curve is any good, because if the advance curve's good, then potentially the module can be changed or upgraded. But if the advance curve's not good, then we need to change the distributor anyway, in which case I'll supply one that's rated for that core. What's going to happen if it isn't rated and we end up keeping it is probably the module's going to burn out at some point. But as I say, I've told the customer, and he's quite happy to go with that for now, and then we'll basically determine if we need to keep the distributor or not in a minute. I've checked the HT lead resistance. We're at about 3k, so we're all good. I'm going to pull the plugs out now. This is a typical Morris Minor engine, and it's got no timing marks on the crankshaft. So I'm going to verify TDC position on number 1 cylinder, put my own mark on the engine, and then we can check the advance curve. So on these Morris Minor engines, what I like to do is to put my timing marks on so I can see. So what I've done is turn the engine around to TDC, line the marks up, and then I'll put my own marks on the top so I can then use the strobe light to be able to strobe it as normal. Okay, so what we've done is I've obviously checked the timing. Timing's good actually, so I'm not going to touch that at all. We're only setting this up for running in, so I can't rev it all the way up to see what the full advance is, but we're getting plenty of advance enough for running in. Anyway, turning our attention to carburetor, and I'm really glad this customer called me down, because we're at 0.82 at 2,000 revs and 0.84 at 3,000, so we're very rich. If we'd have left it like that, it would have washed the bores out. So we're going to pull the fuel out of it now. And get this one running clean so it can run itself in without doing itself damage. Right, another interesting car here. This is a brand new engine, so it's not even been run around the block yet, and as I've already determined there, this one's running very rich. So very, very fortuitous that the owners called me down, because this would have ball washed the engine. So what we're going to do here is dial that fuel out to make sure that that engine hasn't got excess fuel going through its critical part of its life, which is very, very young. It's not bedded in yet. It's going to wash the rings out unless we dial the fuel out. Loads of people fall foul of this, and that's the reason is because they've got no means of understanding what the fueling's doing, and they don't even contact anybody like myself to come around and set this up. This is an example of an owner who is, is making sure that he gets the best crack at getting his engine running in by calling me down to enable that fueling to be under control. But this is, if this was left, it wouldn't have ended well. So, engine running, had a treble A needle in, which was way too rich. So I went down to an AAF, which was still too rich. So I've now gone to an AAE, which is now too lean. So that's perfect. So what I'm going to do with that is just give that a little polish to get that fueling still on the slight lean side. But I don't want anywhere near the amount of fueling that was in it before, because that's going to obviously wash the rings out. So I'm going to just make sure this is around the Lambda 1 point, and then it's good for a test drive. Funny enough, yet again, another treble A needle. As I said before, it's a very rich needle, and again, in this case, it would have caused damage. So don't reach for that needle unless you've got a means of actually verifying the fueling. So, got this one done. Got the carburetor dialed in. Fueling on the carburetor is a little bit wavy. Haven't really decided whether it's this or there was some oil that was in the exhaust. So, and that obviously contaminates my sensor. So, in terms of where we are, we're running lean, which is where we need to be. So, this is all ready for a test drive. Certainly sounds good. Fueling is nicely under control across the rev range. So we are running around Lambda 1 all the way up, which is pretty much ideal for running in. So let's get the owner out on it and see what he thinks. Okay, so why are we looking at the plugs after we've done our final test drive? Well, if you have a look at those plugs, you'll see that they are not fully clean. And the reason for it is we're running 6s, and in that little 1149, the way it's running and the way it's been driven, they're still barely getting warm enough. So what I've done is I've changed them for a set of 5s, so that the owner can complete the running, and hopefully keep the plugs cleaner. So clearly they are burning up cleaner, but they're just not burning off all the soot. And as you can see, we've got a different colour on each one. So hopefully when he comes back on the 5s, we'll have a clean set of plugs. And this is common on an engine where you get the engine sits between heat ranges on a spark plug. So in this case, I've advised him that maybe changing to Champions and maybe an N10 or even an N11 might work better for him than the BP5s or the BP6s from NGK. So it's one of those things that you can only make the decision on once you've actually seen them running in the engine, and then you can actually decide what works for your engine. I'm just going on this little test now, which clearly isn't ideal because it's only been out for a short ride. He's out now currently testing it with the 5s in, just to see how they look when they come back. So after the test drive with the BP5 plugs in it, you can see the BP5 plug is this one, and you can see the end. The electrodes are nice colour, and the insulation is nice and white. So that is burning as it should, and I'm going to leave it like that for the running in. And then, as I say, as we mentioned before, going to let the owner decide what plugs he wants to use, whether he stays with the 5s or the 6s, or even goes for the Champions, because the Champions have a finer heat range, so he might be able to just nail that down to a Champion N10 or an N11, depending on what runs cleanest in his application. So Paul's been out for a test drive. Obviously we've fiddled with the spark plugs, etc. So what's it like now?
It's very good, very good. Picks up well, no hesitation, nice and fast.
Excellent. And the most important thing for this one is it's now running a lot leaner than it was, because I'm actually glad you called me out, because effectively running at sort of 0.82 at 2000 revs was way too rich. So you could see what it was doing to the previous set of spark plugs. So yeah, very good of you to call me out, because actually that could have actually damaged that engine permanently if you'd have left it. So no, definitely not. Anyway, the most important thing is, would you recommend this service to anyone else?
I would recommend it to everybody.
All right.
An A-series engine, or
All
any engine that's got SUs on it.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks very much for calling me down, and also I appreciate the fact you had another person here, which obviously made it cheaper for both of you. So yeah, well done for that as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, hopefully you enjoyed that. It's kind of a bumper edition this time, quite long. So I think it's going to be a little while, maybe 2 weeks before I do another episode. So hopefully this one will keep you going, because it is longer. But as ever, please like, subscribe, and share. And if you want to tune, you know where to come. Thanks very much.